Hey, what is going on? Coach Eric Bach here, and welcome to the Eric Bach Show. And today, I'm going to tell you a personal story. Yep, I am on testosterone, and I'm going to break down why, how I came to this conclusion, and why this was the best decision for me. And hopefully, this gives you a decision making framework and a paradigm to consider things just a little bit differently because there are a lot of questions, concerns, stigmas around everything related to hormone replacement therapy, testosterone replacement therapy, all of this stuff that is out there. So let me tell you a story and let's kind of roll from there. So, over the last 15 plus years, I've been able to help thousands of men transform their bodies, optimize their routines, and become better leaders and partners. But really, for me, this is about something I want to do on my own. And I think I owe everybody transparency about it because I believe transparency is something that sorely is lacking in the fitness industry. We have people who, talk about doing one thing, yet behind the scenes are doing something completely different. And while I believe everybody should be able to do whatever they want with their body and not have to answer questions necessarily about it, there is a different line of thinking and, frankly, level of transparency that should be involved when it comes to, frankly, selling something that is based on your health and your body if you are putting different substances in there, right? So, what I want to do is kind of break down how I came to this decision. It's not something that I took lightly, but hopefully it can, give you some insight in terms of my thinking. And then, of course, if you have any questions about this, I'm always more than happy to engage and break things down, right? So, for context, I'm 36. For over a decade, I have done blood work 1 to 2 times per year. I've pushed myself incredibly aggressively as an athlete. Gotten photo shoot lean. I've had visible, six pack abs. Probably haven't been higher than 12% body fat. Maybe since a short blurb in college, when I was partying a lot, having a great time. And, basically stay very dialed in, right? All the time with my training, recovery, stress management, all of these components. Now, layer in, a few different events that have happened in my life as well. Some stressful ones, right? From, being robbed of $100,000 from a fraudulent accountant when I started my business to, frankly, starting a business while training clients 12 hours per day, skipping on sleep for, good chunk of 5 years to starting multiple businesses, eventually shutting a few of those down, particularly first time I kind of struggled with burnout, more on that momentarily. And of course, now being just a little bit older, having some of that mileage accumulated, being a father, and wanting to be the best version of myself across the board, right? And really, over the last few years, but especially the last 6 to 7 months, I've just felt a little bit off. I've increased kind of my blood work, a lot of different strategies that I've taken, taken advantage of in terms of my training, in terms of recovery, in terms of, leveraging the knowledge and the connections that I have to try to get into the best health and shape possible. But still, my energy has felt absolutely drained. Mental clarity, I've been having one hell of a time getting into a flow state, really being able to do deep creative tasks, which for me is absolutely crucial as a content creator. If we go back to the roots of Bach Performance, this business was quite frankly created on me being able to create content. It was on me being able to write articles, being able to simplify some of the complexities in the fitness industry in a way that people can understand it. And that's what got me published in places like Men's Health, T Nation, bodybuilding.com, yada, yada, yada for years. And it's been increasingly difficult for me to even be able to tap into that creative side because I'm constantly feeling drained, mental fog, all of that stuff all together. And so between low energy, mental clarity, motivation, just feel like I'm running on fumes 24/7, 365. My sleep, despite doing everything in the book, in terms of how to optimize sleep, despite building out a team to reduce some of the stresses and frankly having to do everything all the time in my business, still been frankly kind of a personal struggle. And for me, motivation has not always been there to show up in the gym, right? To show up to work, but because it's who I am, I show up and I get the job done regardless. But it doesn't mean it's been enjoyable. It doesn't mean there's been a whole lot of energy left, frankly, for me at home to be the partner I want to be the father I want to be the person I want to be 24/7, 365. And so, despite me living healthier than ever, sleeping more, drinking less, training smarter, my blood work was quite frankly going backwards. In fact, the first quarter of this year, I really took a lot of time to focus on improving a few specific biomarkers, knowing that, TRT might be something in the future, but I wanted to really dial in things like my blood lipid levels and ApoB, which can be a great indicator for cardiovascular risk disease long term, hematocrit, and typically having a higher iron and ferritin content, things that need to be long term considerations when it comes to cardiovascular health and staying healthy, right? And even despite this, and again, I have blood work from a decade to kind of look back at these things, is my testosterone dropped to less than half of what it was 6 to 7 years ago. DHEA and pregnenolone, which are key hormonal precursors, were also in the tank. And DHEA really is kind of the foundational hormone needed for the synthesis of all hormones, just about zero. Pregnenolone, which is considered the mother of all hormones, and typically when pregnenolone is lower in men, we see an increase in terms of things like anxiety, which has definitely been a battle for me, never was previously, was also in the tank. Right. And so after reviewing my labs and my history, being able to chat with doctors, really they brought up the idea of HPA axis dysfunction, which is oftenly mislabeled as adrenal fatigue. In plain terms, I have been burned out, and not just recently, but for a long time. But because, again, I just simply run through walls. Effort is always easy for me. Pulling back is not. I just continue to push harder and harder and harder, despite some of the signals that my body has given me. Right. And so, having been in this battle for a while now, I've come to the conclusion that I feel like I'm doing all the things right, still seeing a struggle, still seeing my lab work actually give me the data to, frankly, for me, hit me over the head with it, that I need to be able to make some changes, right? I've been doing all the right things and still running into some struggles, and this has happened now for a while. So, I made the decision first to start using prescription DHEA and pregnenolone. Now you can get those things over the counter. I typically always recommend going through a doctor and getting the pharmaceutical grade stuff because the supplement industry is historically unregulated. So I've been using DHEA in the morning. It's about 10 milligrams per serving, and then pregnenolone 50 milligrams in the evening. And those two specifically kind of rebuild that hormonal foundation, especially in terms of mental clarity. These are both things that typically decrease as we get older as well. And so you see a lot of kind of biohackers talk about this stuff, and using some of the supplementation to kind of get there. Again, I decided to go the pharmaceutical route so I can get pharmaceutical grade, the good shit, so to speak. And, it takes time for all of these things to work, but now being a couple of weeks in, I can definitely tell my mental acuity, my stress management, all of those things are significantly better because I was getting to a place where, even small things throughout the day, I would just ruminate on them. I would not be able to kind of get over it. Whereas previously, and that was never an issue, right? And so we can talk about a number of different, reasons for that, but I think you get the point. TRT, I started May 30th. Yeah, May 30th. And as I'm recording this right now, it is Wednesday, June 4th, right? So I've done a couple of injections, not really enough to have anything significant up to this point, 200 milligrams per week of testosterone cypionate. But typically it can take 2 to 6 weeks for things like testosterone to really take hold. So I can tell you that I'm definitely feeling a little bit better energy-wise, a little bit more motivation, a little bit better mental clarity, which is absolutely phenomenal. And frankly, that is my primary goal. Frankly, if my goal was to do a steroid cycle and get absolutely fucking huge, like objectively speaking, it's not hard to find that stuff. I know plenty of people who use many of those things in the fitness industry. So if that was primarily the goal, I probably would have been blasting testosterone, tren, and GH a long time ago. But that's not really where I'm at. So my goal here really is not just to blast my system to get huge. It is to restore, frankly, what has been lost, probably both from a stressful lifestyle of running a high impact business, which many business owners can relate to, years of hard training and overall stress. And primarily my motivation in that is I want to be able to show up as the best person that I can be, not just physically, but really for my family, for my clients. I don't want to be the dad who feels like he's going to melt on the couch because he's absolutely drained after, another 50, 60-hour week that he's been doing for 10 plus years, because that's been my reality recently, right? It's not the way that I want to function. It's not the way that I perform. It's not the example that I want to lead. I want to be more resilient to the stressors of life. Make no mistake, testosterone makes you more resilient and able to handle stress. It makes effort feel good. And these are things that I've definitely noticed have decreased over time. And for me, being able to get that quote unquote edge back is something I am absolutely looking forward to. And, Of course, overall, will there be some changes to my physique? I'm sure there will be, right? Having talked with so many people and doctors, like, yeah, you'll probably add some lean muscle mass and get leaner right away because, after all, it is testosterone. And you know what? If my motivation is higher, frankly, I'll probably be a little bit more motivated in the gym, push a little bit harder. Central nervous system output, force output typically will increase with the increase in testosterone as well. So I will be able to train harder. And I can also tell you that because I've been very health focused and want to clean up the lifestyle and nutrition and sleep and all of these different aspects and want to be able to prevent any negative consequences and side effects of using testosterone, well, that by itself is going to lead to also better results than if I had shittier habits, poor sleep, and was getting sloppy with food, right? So testosterone, will it definitely help from a physiological angle? Yes, but it's also going to help me stick to the things that lead to better results in the first place. And I think that's an important kind of delineation that a lot of people forget about when it comes to looking at TRT, so on and so forth. And so the goal here is to kind of get my testosterone back in the 800 to 1,000 range and kind of see how my body is feeling. Of course, we'll need blood work to kind of dial all of that stuff in. Again, not just to blast as much as humanly possible. But, overall, my big reason for sharing all of this is, as a coach, I do not believe in recommending anything I would not be willing to do myself. My clients on a regular basis make big decisions. I'm talking life-changing ones. They invest a good amount of money directly into our coaching, blood work, and they communicate openly, honestly, with data, with their blood work, with things that are working for them, things that are not. And for me to be able to provide the best level of coaching services to my clients, that's what's required. And frankly, I would be doing them a disservice if I am not willing to have that same level of transparency with what I am personally going through and with what I am personally looking to do myself in my individual experiences, right? And so some people may disagree with this choice. I had a few, I broke this down over on Instagram, a few days ago, and had some people who were curious. Many people were supportive, and of course, a few assholes. Just reality. That's fine. But the reality of all of this is I would much rather live life honestly and on my own terms than listen to a few haters or do things because I'm scared of the judgment of other people in the first place. Right. And so, all in all, I just wanted to share this overall story and this breakdown. I'm not really making any big structural changes to the way that I am training, the way that I am eating, because I'm not pushing super maximal levels of testosterone in the first place. I am pushing levels to be back to where they were previously so I can look, feel, and perform the way that I want. All of this said, if you have any questions on this process, please reach out onto Instagram at Bach Performance or email if you're checking it out there. Just know that I'm always here, always an open book, and always willing to share this journey. If you're somebody who's felt chronically fatigued, flat, and foggy, even while you're doing everything right, I definitely recommend getting your blood work done. This is something that can often be difficult with most general practitioners, which is why I like to use companies such as Blokes and Merrick Health in order to get regular labs and really see what's happening under the hood, not feel like you have to beg and plead your doctor in order just to get good basic blood work and see what's actually happening with your physiology. Right? So thank you so much for joining me here, gang. If you have any questions, again, you know where to reach me. And if you're getting value directly from these, drop a 5-star review and share this episode with somebody else who would find it valuable. Have a good one. I will talk to you on the next show.